Well, welcome back to our course, Writing 242 Technical Communication. We're continuing to work through this second section where we're talking about specific types of genre that come up in technical communication. We just spoke about proposals and we talked about those four: internal and external, solicited and unsolicited. Now we're going to talk about a different type of technical communication is when you have brief reports. Brief meaning short. And so here are things that you will have to be doing, say, for status reports and the like of things like that. So keep that in mind. So in this chapter, you will learn to recognize the different types of brief reports and how they are used in the workplace. Plan and do research toward writing a brief report. Organize and draft a brief report, and choose an appropriate style, design, and format for a brief report. So here are the types of brief reports. They can be brief reports objectively inform readers. First, what happened? That would be one possibility. What is happening, the current situation, and what will happen in the near future? So these are the things that you would be covering there. So one type is a progress report. And so a progress report informs about the status of a project. A typical project report will provide the following: a summary of the completed activities, a discussion of ongoing activities, and a forecast of future activities. So a summary, a discussion, and a forecast. A lot of times there is information about how well you're performing against metrics, whether it be cost, whether it be manpower, and schedule. Those are some things that you typically could have that would be part of that. So you can have that first thing, you can have progress reports. Next, you can have white papers and briefings. And so white papers and briefings are used to educate the management or clients about important issues. So maybe they need to get a white paper to get an understanding of what it is that you're working on. Beyond that, there could be a briefing that you're starting to give a more detailed update, not just a status, but you're talking about the significance of this. And so you can have the summary of the facts that's going to be important, a discussion of the importance of those facts, why it makes a difference, what it is that you're doing that is distinguishing your capabilities and meeting the needs of the customers, or helping the company to meet milestones that they're interested in. So a summary, discussion, and a forecast, and we want to provide a forecast about the importance of these facts in the future. Another type is an incident report, and incident reports describe accidents or irregular occurrences. And this is one of the things that you would hate to do. But on the flip side, if you have good technical communication, you can quickly mitigate this and get beyond this. And so that would be a good thing. So you want to provide a summary of what happened, who got hurt, and how, a discussion of why it happened. Maybe there was some faulty equipment, or if it was untrained personnel, that you need to then talk about how you're going to mitigate that. And so you're going to have a description of how the situation was handled. They would want to make sure that it was done appropriately according to company policy, and any external requirements that needed to be happened in the discussion of how the problem will be avoided in the future. All that is important. And then you're going to be documenting this. And so you can quickly close this if it's written well and according to the procedures that the company has to handle things like that. Another type of technical communication is a laboratory report. Lab reports are written to describe experiments, tests, and experiments or inspections. So here you're doing, say, some new technical development. You're doing that testing, and you want to make sure that you capture all that. So the lab report includes the following kinds of information: a summary of the experiments, what were the methods that were used to get the results, a presentation of the results, and the discussion of the results. So you list the results, and then you talk about what is the impact of what you have as a result of getting what you generated. Okay, now we talked about these different types of brief reports. Well, now let's get into the writing mode for each one of those. Similar to what we've talked about before, we have these steps. So the step one is doing your plan and research. The content in brief reports usually comes from your activities. So research and understanding the audience is a little bit easier. Keep an active journal or work log is a good practice to adopt. Tracking tasks daily saves time in the long run when you need to report your activities. So keep that all in mind. And so a discussion question is, what kind of activities would you keep in a log? What tools or software can you use to help you? So these are things that can help simplify these things. And you may actually have different types of software that's part of your company that you just need to utilize effectively. So then you want to be analyzing the situation. And this is part of planning. So you want to be answer the 5 W's and how questions. And so here you can just think about the situation. We've shown an example of those 5 questions elsewhere. So you want to determine the rhetorical situation, the subject, the purpose, the readers, and the context of use. All of that is important. So one of the basic features of a brief report, reports include the following features, which should be adopted based on how the report will be used. So you have this type of an outline, an introduction. You have a way of introducing what you're talking about, a summary. Say you have what are the key executive summary findings you want to report. You can get into the specifics step by step, having the graphics and charts that help to quickly give an integrative assessment of what you've talked about. There will be a description. There would be a record of expenses, and finally the conclusion. So those are the types of things that you would have in a brief report. In a lot of settings, that those things will be specified to you by management or company policy. The next two is organize and draft. We've talked about this before, and so you want to start to outline things and then start to fill in those details. So organizing and drafting brief reports should not take much time. All documents have an introduction, body, and conclusion. The introduction would include the subject, purpose, and main point. The body would be the activities, research, results, future activities, and expenses. And finally, the conclusion, you will restate the main point, make recommendations, and look to the future. Step 3 is thinking about the style, the design, and the format. Keep the style plain and straightforward. You want to design for simplicity, make it accessible. You want to illustrate with graphics, and so use that effectively, and write for electronic media. More and more company resources are going to electronic format, so they can have a nice data record, and they can leverage that in case something similar comes up in the future. Here is a micro genre that's related to this, and it's something that's called a post-mortem. There's various names that are used for this. And so this is how you look to evaluate a project after it is completed. And so here you want to be thinking of the lessons learned, and that would be another way of titling this. So they offer a brief history, which allows you to document lessons and best practices. So you can describe what were the specific 5 W's and how for this type of project. You can describe the major stages, step by step, identify what worked, identify what didn't work. Both of these are very important. So here you want to be doing again what worked, but also you want to avoid what didn't work. You identify what the team could do differently next time. So here we're getting into lessons learned, and highlight what are the best practices. What do you want to be leveraging? And if there's something that needs to be changed, this is where you can start to capture that and have that justification that would be used in the future. Okay, that's it for this lecture. Thank you very much.